Fantastic. Thanks very much, Anthony. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Anthony quickly? Well, they can cover them in the next one anyway. So, Anthony, you're going to stay on stage. We're going to keep you up there.
Okay.
And we're going to be joined by Leah in conversation with Eamon Leonard. Okay. Leah, if you want to...
Hey. Chairs as well.
Getting there. No worries.
Thanks. You want to take
Yeah,
a second?
sure.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, they're off. I think yours is still on.
I'm on, yeah. How you doing?
I don't think my mic is on.
No.
No? Are your mics on?
I'm off now.
They're all off.
I'm off now.
They're all off.
Okay.
Yeah. Are your mics working?
I don't think so. Yeah.
No, it's not working.
All.
You have a balance, sir?
Yeah,
I think they're all. Say something.
it doesn't work. For me, it doesn't work.
It's working now.
Does it?
You guys here?
No.
You hear?
Can anybody hear these people
Microphone check.
speaking?
Yeah, it doesn't. I think that's my normal voice.
Oh, there we go.
That's
Oh,
good.
okay. Yeah, now definitely.
Thank you for that. Sorry about the difficulties there. So, we got a couple of questions we're going to run through, and then we got some questions from the audience. So, who wants to go first?
You go first.
I'm gonna
Ladies
go
first. So, how can high-growth health tech companies thrive with so much regulations?
How can health tech thrive with so much regulation?
Yeah.
Is that the question? I'm very pro-regulation, so I think we need regulation around this area. Actually, I do think, especially in our space, and I'm talking about the women's health space, I think we're regulated, but we still see left and right things that should probably be regulated, and they're not. So I'm actually a big fan of regulation in our space. I think it needs to be there, and yes, it does slow us down, and the only way that you can compensate that is with funding into the area. Because basically you're slowing down innovation, but when it then comes out, you make sure that it's the right one. And you need people who are patient, and you need investors who are patient, but then you will have much better outcomes at the end.
Am I on? Yeah. Well, I think we need radical innovation in the regulatory environment, and I think that's the subject of another debate somewhere else in another hall at the moment. I agree, regulation is a requirement, but fundamentally, regulation has to catch up with the evolving landscape, and I don't think it's going to do that very quickly because regulation is what it is. I mean, that shaped our journey. I talk about personal care, food, and cosmetics as driving the innovation in the realm that we're engaged in. We think that we're going to evolve our capability as that space, in fact, becomes more regulated. At the moment, it's a bit of a Wild West game. A lot of claims being made about the microbiome. Very little substance and science to back those claims up. So that emphatically is going to become a much more regulated space. But in the meantime, supporting clients who are trying to make those claims more robustly is where we're focused.
The Wild West analogy, though, that's really where a lot of innovation tends to happen because of the lack of regulation. And so maybe how do you strike that balance?
Well, if I may, I mean, one of the things that we're doing is because we're now able with our technology to track and trace these food contaminants, we're lobbying with one of our customers, the FDA in the US, to say, don't you think you ought to make this a requirement and a standard? Because without it, the public are larger at more risk.
So there's a role to be played on your side with regards to regulation by prompting governments to speed things up.
I think so, yeah, I think so.
You know, I think for us, I mean, just going into areas that aren't really regulated, I mean, we had the advantage that we could start in a lower regulated area, and we can now move up into a much more higher regulated area, right? So we started with fertility, trying to conceive, and now we're moving into much more regulated areas, such as pregnancy monitoring and contraception. So I think that's also a way how startups can survive in the regulatory environment. They pick this one area where they have a bit more leeway, and then from there they learn and they grow with the regulation.
Okay. So what's the biggest mistake you've made growing your company to date? Maybe it doesn't have to be biggest, maybe one that you regret or that you wish you'd had more time to think about or take away? I
can start, I mean, whatever. I mean, for me, it's always people. I work with amazing people, but I have made so many mistakes also with people in being a leader to them, and also like sometimes I didn't get the right person in, and I should have, because I thought, well, I don't really need that talent yet, and 2 months later I realized, oh, I should have had that. So I've made a million mistakes growing our team, and I think that's one area that you continue to learn, and we're now 100 people, so we need to learn it very fast, and I think we do, but it's the key to success, and that's also the place where I beat myself most up about mistakes that I've made in the past.
That's a good one.
I prefer to talk about problems to overcome rather than mistakes made. I mean, and I agree. I mean, millions of problems that we've overcome and have still to overcome. And I wouldn't want to single any one of those out, because on a day-to-day basis, they change in relevance and importance. What I would say is one of the best things we've done has been partnering with Microsoft. We just graduated from the Microsoft Scale-Up program at the Microsoft Startups Accelerator. And that's pulled the culture of my business from fundamentally a research-oriented culture without sort of scaled software global enterprise mindset towards that more. I think that's fundamentally enabled an acceleration in the journey we're on, and it's the most significant change.
So they're both people related, really. Yeah. You know, you're talking about hiring the right people and continuing to keep an eye on how you do that as you scale, but also culture is a function of the people.
Yeah.
It is. Not only, but it is.
Yeah.
Culture is strategy for breakfast, of course, as we all know.
Right. So, what as we come to the end of 2018, what are you most excited about next year?
I mean, we have a ton of cool clinical stuff coming up. I hope we will be much further in uncovering certain things that we are right now itching to understand better. We're really, when we look at the technology that we're working on, we're working in a field that no one really gets, right? Hormonal changes, no one has figured it out. And I think there's so many things that we're dying to find out, and I hope some of them we will see solved next year in the things that we're doing.
Well, we're just closing our final seed round. It's a more significant round than any previous round we've closed. So I'm looking forward to attacking this opportunity with more vigor towards a significant raise at the end of next year. In the very early stages, it's existential, as we all know, but we've made some great strides. I think we're now on the runway, and I'm excited about accelerating down that runway now.
Cool. Best of luck to you both.
Thanks.
So as the company scales, and we may have touched on this just a minute ago with the people part, but what has been the hardest for you to let go of? Because that's, when you're a founder and you start stuff up, you kind of do everything, and as you add people to the team, you're supposed to kind of delegate, but some things you hold a little bit closer to your heart than other things, and maybe you should let go of it.
Yeah, well, I've got a view. I mean, look, I'm really reluctant to let go of strategy. I love strategy. It's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning, and I'm one of the older entrepreneurs here, so I need something to get me out of the bed in the morning, and I'm reluctant to give that one up.
Maybe that's not one you should give up. I mean, strategy should sit with founders, right?
Well, of course, but there's always the founder problem or the founder challenge, as the thing scales, and the thing is starting to scale. Now, look, I'm not the founder. I'm, the conceiver of the new vision. So I think I've got some longevity yet. I'm not going to let go of it anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it took me a moment, because honestly, like most of the things that I'm doing now, I'm excited, they're new, and I think I don't miss a lot of things, but one thing that I miss is community management. I am extremely proud of the community we've built. We have users of us meeting up all over the world for coffee, and I love the community that we've built, and I still meet with those people whenever I can, and I go and have coffee with our users. But I think that was something that I loved. I spent every day hours in that community and made sure that people like what we do, and I communicated with them. And a million people messaged me on Facebook on a normal day because they had questions or they wanted to do something, and I can't answer those requests anymore now. And I think that's part of how things go. But I think I do miss the personal customer interaction sometimes.
Yeah, especially if that kind of becomes synonymous with the brand. Like the reason people are attracted to the brand is because they've heard about it through a community, or the community is a meaningful part of it. Like, would you say that that's actually maybe not IP, but it's a core asset, right?
It's a core asset for us, but I have to say I've hired the most perfect person for community management ever, and I think she's doing it a million times better than I do. So I was okay to give it up, but I think that's where it comes back to people, right? You need the right people in order to take hard decisions like that. And yes, I think our community is our brand, because the first thing that you see of our product is our product, and then you see the community.
Okay, so last question. I'm going to rephrase the way this question is posed. The question, I suppose, is who did you idolize when you were an early stage company? But maybe a better way of phrasing that would be, who did you look to for inspiration as you started on your entrepreneurial journey?
I have always idolized people who are just a little bit further than we are. I think I haven't really idolized people who are far, far, far away, always people who are a little bit ahead. And I think the first person that comes to my mind is a really, really good friend of mine. Her name is Laura. She's in San Francisco. She runs a company. It's a little further than we are. So she's done her B round probably 6 months before me. And then, you know, everything that happens to me happened 6 months before for her. And I have idolized her. I'm still idolizing her. I think, yeah, those are the people. And I think that's why peers are so important.
Yeah, you need to have good people in your life to cheer you on, to push you, to listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, this is my fourth startup. And I think I'm most impressed by people that...
Does it work?
Most impressed by people that see the space, see the niche, see the opportunity, and have the verve, the vigor, and the tenacity to go after that. And you know, I venture to say that over 4 startups, I've started to get cleverer at seeing those niches as well. And I think you know, those people that have demonstrated you know, the ability to transform markets, achieve radical social change, and also most recently in this industry, you know, the scientists who've been unheralded heroes, making this all happen. I think those are the people I increasingly, you know, cherish and you know, respect.
We got time for... Okay, we're going to have maybe one question, I think, with the time we have left.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. If there's any questions, I'm happy to. Cool. Okay, I think we can leave it there.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you.